Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and I am so thrilled to have a friend of mine back again to talk not only about her expertise, but also about an upcoming book, which is always exciting. As a matter of fact, Dr. Alana Sharps' book launches today, November 20th. So make sure after you listen to this podcast, you're going to want to run on over to Amazon and grab yourself a copy of this. So let me introduce Alana. She is the founder of Sure Thrive Tribe. She's a 2 times international best-selling author. She's a trauma specialist and a high conflict divorce specialist. Alana is a committed advocate for those who are facing the really complex challenges of getting out of toxic relationships and abusive partnerships. And not only does Alana talk about this, but she also has experienced this. In her first book, which I'm going to plug right now, Was It My Fault? It's an excellent book, an excellent read of a very difficult story and a very personal story. So, Alana, thank you for sharing that, because I think that really normalizes what a lot of people are going through and think that they are the only people that are experiencing those kind of toxic relationships. And we are here to celebrate the launch of your upcoming book, Unbroken Ground: Healing from Hidden Wounds and Building Unshakable Self-Worth. So, Alana, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go back a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are, and how. What I'm really curious about is, how did you get I'm going to say, the confidence and the courage to write these books? Because this is not an easy topic that you're writing on.
Not an easy topic at all. And for my first book, it came to life through journaling. I was doing therapeutic journaling after I left my marriage, basically just doing a brain dump of all of these memories I had in my head from the time that I met my husband all the way up until the time that I left him. And actually, while I was journaling, I was still going through post-separation abuse. And for people that don't know what post-separation abuse is, it's when you have counter-parenting, you still have emotional abuse going on, you may have some legal abuse, financial abuse, harassment, stalking. All of that was going on while I was therapeutic journaling. And as I started to open up and tell other people my story, I started getting asked questions about, how did I get out? Or how was I dealing with the situation? Or how did I know that what I was experiencing was emotional abuse? And so I decided to take my journals and turn it into a book and a guide for others. So I share my story and I educate on the different things that are occurring, such as gaslighting. I explain what it looks like, and I also give the example in my own situation of what it looks like. And then I also talk about the impact to my children and how my children reacted to the abuse during my marriage.
Yeah, and I mean, the book it's incredibly authentic. I mean, you can, in reading it, there's sometimes where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't read any more of this, because it was so, it was, even though I personally had not experienced that level of any of that stuff, it's easy to relate to. And I think that it really helped me. I send this to a lot of my clients who are, experiencing getting out of these narcissistic, highly toxic relationships. Again, it could be narcissistic, could be borderline personality disorder, it could be
right. It could be many things.
It could be a bunch of different things, right?
Yes.
So cluster B personality disorders, high conflict individuals. It's so hard to know what it's like if you've never been in that situation. So books like this are really helpful, not just for the people that are going through, but maybe for family members to read too.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit.
A family member.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Alana. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was saying, yes, it's definitely good for friends and family, because we all may know someone who's going through something similar, and we know that something's kind of off, but we can't quite put our finger on it. So it gives them the signs to look for as well, so that they can provide support to that friend or family member.
Right. And what I do find is that so many women and men, let's face it, this can go both ways. So many women and men that are going through this have tried to tell people what they're going through, and people go, "Oh, it can't be that bad," or "Come on, it's, you're just kind of you're exaggerating the situation." Because quite often these toxic people look pretty good from the outside of the relationship, right? I mean, they're good at putting up this really wonderful persona when they're out in public.
That's exactly right. And I experienced that as well because my husband was very charismatic to the outside world. You know, he was the person that everyone wanted to talk to. They just thought he was great, not realizing he was a monster behind closed doors. So when I came out and I started expressing to friends and family what had been going on in the home, and mind you, I didn't say anything for 16 years.
Right.
So when I started to express what was going on, no one believed me
Yeah.
because we always look like the happy family outside of the home. So it was hard for them to fathom these cruel things were happening. And like you said, and if you haven't experienced it yourself, you don't really understand it, especially when you're not being physically hit. Because everybody associates domestic abuse with physical hitting, but it's so much more than just physical abuse. It's emotional, it's verbal, it's digital, it's sexual. There's so many things that fall under the domestic abuse umbrella that we
Right.
don't provide enough attention to that happen on a daily basis.
Yeah. And finally, some of the states are stepping up, and some of the countries and areas around the world are stepping up and starting to recognize things like coercive control, which is kind of that umbrella statement for all of this really bizarre, super controlling behavior that a lot of these toxic relationships have. That abusive person is using this in ways that are so subtle that even if you were in the room and it was happening, you may not pick up on it. It can just be, the way that they look at you or a tone of voice that you instantly realize, oh no, this is how they've gone. The monster is coming out after this person leaves, or after we're out of this situation. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
correct. You get conditioned, right? So
Yeah.
after a while, you learn to navigate that person's moods. You walk on eggshells. You anticipate the other shoe dropping and how you're going to react to it because ultimately you want to keep peace. So you're usually the person trying to compromise, or you're the person that is taking fault for something that you know that you're not responsible for,
Right.
all in an effort to keep the other person calm so that you can go back to a peaceful environment.
Yes. And although it's funny, because although I don't, I think I dated a couple of people that were like this, a couple of men, like, 20, 30 years ago. But I don't, I think that those relationships just ended really quick because I was like, no. Like, I think I was lucky in that for whatever reason, those relationships ended. And I'm not saying it was just me. I'm just saying, it just didn't work, because I can see how easy it would be to get into these for anybody. With that being said, I have worked for two bosses now that I clearly know were toxic people because they did this same thing in the workplace. And because I was their direct report, I got the brunt of that behavior. So I do have it from the business side, or the workplace side, not from the home side. So let's talk, though, about your new book, because it's a little bit different than your first book, which really lays out that whole toxic 16 plus years that you all experienced together. What does tell us about, the unbroken ground? Tell us about that and what that's what that's going to shine a light on, because I'm really excited about this.
Yes, so I called the first book phase one, and I called the next book phase two because it really is moving out of that toxic relationship and what do I do now? Right? You have gone through all of this abuse. More than likely, you have post-traumatic stress disorder. Your body is discombobulated. Like you have all of these things going on, all of these physical things, all of these emotions, and you may have children that you're also trying to take care of as well. So, how do we get back to a normal state of feeling? How do we start to begin to heal our minds and our bodies so that we can be calm? I always tell my clients, you can't be the best mother or father if you don't take care of yourself. So, if you're in a constant state of stress, then you are bringing that stress onto your child who is already stressed because they are being shuttled back and forth between two parents. So we want to try to ease everything for everyone. So I talk through the different modalities that you can use for body movement, right? To get the trauma out of your body, such things such as yoga, Tai Chi, dance therapy, or taking a simple walk every day. A lot of people don't know that walking outside for 10 minutes can do wonders for your nervous system. It calms your nervous system down. It's a form of self-care,
Hmm.
right? A lot of people don't know that. You can journal, something that I did. But if you're not a writer, maybe you like to read. That's a form of self-care. So I talk about the different mindfulness techniques and the creative outlets. And then I also talk about the importance of goal setting, because if we don't set goals for ourselves to make certain achievements in our own healing, we're never going to achieve them. So it's very important to set goals. And it could be something that's so simple as 3 to 4 days a week, I'm going to take a 10-minute walk. We don't have to set these difficult goals that are unachievable because the point is to be able to achieve them while going through the healing process. So I speak about that. And then for the parents that have kids, I talk about how to look for the signs of emotional distress in your children at the different ages and how you as a parent can support them through that. I grew up in the era of children are seen and not heard.
Right.
That's not good for this day and age. Our children need to be respected. Our children's feelings need to be validated. Our children need to feel loved. So that's very important, especially for children that have come out of abusive households, to have a safe environment to go to with the healthy parent and feel loved and feel that what they are feeling and how they are expressing it is okay. I lay all of that out in the book as well.
Well, I think that's so important because, you know, co-parenting is hard enough, and it's hard enough for kids to go back and forth between two households. But I love this expression. I've heard it used by several different people. It's better for kids to live in two households of light than one household of darkness. And it's better even if you're not going to have those two households of light, if kids can have one household of light with the supportive parent, even if they're dealing with a toxic other parent, you can balance that out if you know how to love and support your kids. Because I know that you sometimes can't just cut out these toxic people because the courts don't recognize the damage they're doing, and it can be more stress constantly going back to court and trying to get something modified. So I really appreciate that you're talking about that.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. I mean, most of the states are 50-50 by default, 50% with one parent, 50% with the other. So we need to focus on what is within our control. We can't control the fact that that child has to go to the other parent on a 50% basis or anything that goes on in that home when the child is there. But we can control when that child is with us, how we interact with the child, and how safe our environment is. That's
Yeah.
something that I stress a lot with my clients who want to control when, for the mom, for example, well, when he's with dad, X, Y, and Z happens, and I want that to stop. Well, reality is you can't stop that. And there's no court order that is going to stop that behavior.
Yeah.
Put your energy into what can you do as a mom to be able to raise a healthy minded child into adulthood. That
Right.
is something that we can control.
And we do know that these toxic personalities do play on their kids and play with their kids in unhealthy ways. In other words, a toxic person has no qualms about using their kids in a negotiation or a strategy or to hurt the other parent. They're going to do this, and you're right. I see so many of my clients as well, Alana, that are so overwhelmed with trying to get the other parent from bringing the new partner into the house when the kids are there. you know Even if you got a court order saying they couldn't be in the house, how are you going to monitor that? Are you going to sit outside their house? Now you got a problem because you're stalking them, right? I mean, if they
That's
call the
right.
court, there's all these things that We just have to, at some point in time, support our kids and love them and give them that place where if something is going on that's bothering them, they have a parent that they feel that they can talk to.
Absolutely. And if your child doesn't want to talk to you all the time, bring in a therapist, get outside help.
Right.
Do what you need to do in order for your child to feel safe. That's the most important thing because what happens when we don't recognize things are going on with our children, they start to have suicidal behavior when they become teenagers. They may start cutting. They may have social anxiety where they don't want to leave the house. Like all of these things manifest from a child that's in emotional distress that's not being dealt with and they don't feel safe.
Right. And we know the percentage of those kids that also abuse alcohol and drugs is much higher than the general population because, again, it's a way to self-medicate. It's a way to, not a healthy way, but it's a way to, not experience reality as it is. It's a way to, to move beyond that. And that's unfortunate because yeah, it's the kids that end up paying for those kind of things. So I love that your book covers that. And I think I'm guessing that book probably also covers a lot of information on boundary setting. Is that something that you go over with your, with the audience, that's with the readers?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because I do touch on, okay, now that we're healing and we're ready to possibly start dating again, what does a healthy relationship look like? Because we just came out of a very unhealthy relationship. Do we know what a healthy relationship looks like? So I talk about that as well as setting healthy boundaries. A lot of us grew up with having our boundaries trampled on from the time that we were children, which led us into these toxic adult relationships because we didn't know how to establish boundaries. So it's very important to learn what are healthy boundaries and how do we establish those. And you actually need to practice. I mean, I'm not good at setting boundaries myself. I have to practice setting boundaries, speaking up in the moment instead of speaking up later on. If you don't feel comfortable with something or you don't like something, speak up at that time instead of regretting it later
Right.
and then saying, oh, well, I should have said something about that. So that's one thing that I point out as well. Healthy boundaries are really important for our own mental health and so that we don't get walked on by other people. It's a protection mechanism for us to protect us.
Yeah, what a great reminder. And I think the other thing is if you are reading these books and you read the first book, one of the thing this book wasn't my fault. One of the neat things is that you have actually pointed out where the little, where the flags are, where the little red flags. And you probably can't see this, but there's actually a little red flag in the book that lets you know, hey, this is a sign of of a problem of a toxic person's behavior. Um, and I'm guessing one of those things around the boundaries is look for patterns that seem to be repeating from your prior relationships, because a lot of times, like people pleasing, that's something that a lot of people do, especially around this time of year, right? The holidays. We just do whatever anybody wants us to do, and it's okay to say no.
Absolutely. If you don't want to do it, if you're not comfortable with doing it, say no.
Yeah.
Say no. And
Yeah.
you're right. In the beginning of the relationship, I could point out many things when I was dating my ex-husband where he would crossed a boundary. And I let him cross it. Looking back on it, I let him cross it because I didn't stand up for myself.
Right.
So we know in the moment when a boundary is being crossed, but we don't always speak up for ourselves
And
because,
I
again, we want to people please, like you said.
well, and I think it's also um we're not always in a good place ourselves, and
Right.
it's okay to not be in a good place, and you should, and I know, Alana, you're very much supportive of, don't beat yourself up because you let something happen to you in the past. You do the, what is it, Maya Angelou says that you do the best with what you know, and then when you know better, you do better. That's not exactly right, but it's somewhere along those lines. And I think that's so important. And that's why getting educated, if you have been in one of these toxic relationships and working with somebody like Dr. Alana Sharps, that's not only been through this, but that has the expertise and the training to be able to walk you through this and come out the other side with that feeling great about yourself and being comfortable in setting those boundaries, because it's not always easy to do.
That's right. It's very difficult to do because you don't want the other person to think negatively of you. You don't want to be seen as the difficult person. So a lot of times we let those boundaries slide. But when we practice self-compassion, which is understanding and treating ourselves fairly, we have self-worth. When we have a self-positive image, it becomes easier to establish those boundaries and to stick to them.
What a great message, and what a great way to wrap this up. And I know we could probably talk for a whole lot longer on this, but I think you've really highlighted some things, and you also have an amazing gift for the listeners. Can you just tell us a little bit about that gift?
The gift of understanding and listening and empathy. I'm a very empathetic person, and I sympathize with any and everyone that's going through something very difficult.
Yeah, and this is authentically Alana. Every time I speak to her, she is so compassionate and really has a heart for people that are going through these really challenging situations. Alana, your book is coming out today. Give us the title again so people can go find it on Amazon, and I'm going to make sure the link is in the show notes.
Yes, the book is called Unbroken Ground: Healing from Hidden Wounds and Building Unshakable Self-Worth.
What a great title. Now, if people do want to find out more about you and what you do, or maybe connect with you to work with you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way is to go to my website or to my social media. My website is sirthrivetribe.com. And my social media handle is at Alana Sharps on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Wonderful. I will make sure all of that is in the show notes. Dr. Alana Sharps, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you so much for writing these two amazing books and for all you do for people that are getting out of these really toxic relationships.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for listening and supporting the D-Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D-Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.